Woman, why are you crying? Those are the words of the angels when Mary of Magdala was there at the tomb. It's a profound question. Woman, why are you crying? She'd come to the tomb first and had seen that it was empty, and she was perplexed. She didn't know what to do. And so she ran back and told Peter and John that the tomb was empty. Somebody had taken the body. And so they ran to the tomb, and Peter and John got there and went inside. Peter was perplexed. John, it says, saw what lay before him, and he believed. He believed that Jesus had been raised. But not so Mary. Mary, heartbroken, stood, and after Peter and John had left, stayed weeping at the tomb. As she looked inside, now suddenly 2 angels were there. And the angels looked at her and said, "Woman, why are you weeping?" "Well, they have taken my Lord away, and I don't know where they have put him." It's amazing, isn't it, that they say to her, these 2 angels, "Why are you weeping?" And it's almost as if she doesn't see that they are angels. I mean, almost every other time that angels appear to people, people are afraid. I mean, they fall down on their faces. They're so awestruck by the appearance of angels. There are 2 angels here, and Mary seems not even to notice that they're angels. So enveloped is she in her grief at having been separated from this one that had changed her life. This one that had given her life. She can't see anything other than her grief. Separation. This pain that we have of being deprived of the company of people that we care about is searing for us. In this coronavirus time, we are profoundly separated from each other. Normally on a Sunday when the church is packed and 1,000 people come through services here, there are just a few who are here to conduct worship for us. And in our daily lives, this profound sense of separation and loss and grief, it just echoes a deeper fear of separation from the ones that we love. In the Wall Street Journal, there was an article, the title of which was, "I'm sorry, I can't kiss you." It tells partially the story of a woman who had an 83-year-old father who was living at home with her, and who was then diagnosed with the coronavirus, couldn't breathe. And so they had to take him to the hospital. And she said, "Dad, I'm here with you. I'll be here with you every step of the way." But then when they got to the hospital, they took her father, and she couldn't go with him. And so for hours, she sat in her car praying. And then eventually, she was able to talk to him over the phone, with a phone that had been placed in a plastic bag, and they held the phone up to his ear, and she said, "Dad, I'm so sorry, I can't be with you. I'm so sorry, I can't kiss you." She was not able to be there with him when he finally passed from this life into the next. Separation from the ones that we love, the ones that we care about. There's no deeper fear for us. And along with this separation from other people, is the separation from our hopes and our dreams for the future. And ultimately a separation from a God who we think ought to love us, ought to be there for us, and yet where is he in the midst of all of this heartache and pain? And so then there at the tomb, Mary is just wandering aimlessly just outside, and another man appears. She assumes that he's the gardener, and he asks the same question. So Mary, he says, so why are you weeping, woman? And she says, they've taken my Lord away. I don't know where they've taken him. Tell me, if you've taken him, tell me where you've put him, and I'll go and get him. And he looks at her, and he says to her, Mary. Now, we don't know how he said that word. We don't know the inflection that he used, the tone. And yet, she had heard it 1,000 times in 1,000 different ways. As Jesus had introduced himself to her, as Jesus had come alongside her and brought to her healing and restoration, as Jesus revealed that he knew more about her than she knew herself, from the inside, deepest part of her out, and brought to her healing and freedom and forgiveness and reconciliation and family and truth and contentment and peace and joy. To hear that name, all of a sudden pierced the clouds of despair and heartache. In the saying of her name, all of a sudden, hope rekindled and love burned passionately. And she replies without even thinking about it, Rabboni, teacher, the highest level of relationship that she could possibly have with a woman who had brought her life. And she fell down on her knees and wrapped her arms around his legs, so much so that he had to say, Mary, you can't cling to me. I got other stuff to do. But go and tell my friends that I live. You know, it would have been interesting to ask her the question, so, woman, now, why are you crying? Why are you crying now? Still tears, I'm sure. Still sobs, but now all of a sudden in a moment switched from tears of grief and sadness and despair to all of a sudden joy and hope and love and anticipation of really wonderful things that the future would hold for her. And not being able to wait to be able to go and to tell her friends about the fact that the Lord was raised and spoke to her and spoke her name. And she could say that he was alive, and they didn't need to despair. And they could look forward to being able to meet him and to hear him say their names with the same kind of love and understanding that she had received from him. You know, in this world, death and fear and anxiety, they come at us and they just threaten to take away from us the things that we think are so precious that we cling to. But Jesus says, oh, it just provides for me an opportunity to be able to fill you with love and compassion in response. St. John the Divine in New York, one of the greatest, biggest cathedrals in the world, an Episcopal cathedral, for Easter is empty, just like us. But they have removed all of their chairs, a huge mammoth space, and they've made it available to the local hospitals in order to be able to bring in coronavirus patients for healing and ministry, to become a hospital for those who are sick. Death shuts down a human activity of worship, but the Lord swoops in with love and an opportunity for healing and wholeness, to be able to bring compassion in spite of the threats and anxiety of the shadow of death. So for us, this understanding that as the shadow of death approaches us and the coronavirus alters our life and takes away things that we feel like are so important for our survival, the love of Christ and his risen power comes into our lives and says, you got a lot of space here. You got a lot of potential here. What can we do with it? How can we change this empty space into the fullness of God's kingdom, his grace and his love, his healing, and invite hospitality, invite people in to be able to be touched by the living Lord? So there's this challenge, this opportunity for us to be able to see how it is that we can take this shadow of death and turn it into the brightness of the morning, of the resurrection of God himself, who empowers us to move out in his love and grace. It's a demonstration of resurrection and the power of the living Christ over a dead and empty tomb. N.T. Wright, the great Anglican theologian, puts it this way: if Jesus Christ is truly risen from the dead, Christianity becomes good news for the whole world. News which warms our heart precisely because it isn't just about warming hearts. Easter means that in a world where injustice, violence, and degradation are endemic, we might say pandemic, God is not prepared to tolerate such things, and that we will work and plan with all the energy of God to implement victory of Jesus over them all. So this gift of time that we have together, this gift of space that we have together, how will the resurrected Lord fill it with the power of his grace and love? How will the resurrected Lord use it to enrich you, to deepen you with a sense of wisdom and compassion that perhaps you hadn't experienced in this way before? How is it that the resurrected Lord will fill every nook and cranny, every corner and every place with the joy of his presence, seeing you being used as a vehicle of his grace? And to go and to invite people into this tremendous celebration. The temptation is just to shut down and to say that we just have to wait until this passes by. Not on your life. Not on the life of Jesus. As he comes and fills us and invites us and blesses us and uses us for such a time as this to tell the good news of this love that will never go away, will never be separated from us, and will be a gift to you and to the people that you love forever. Amen.